Alright, so first thing, you're noticing quite a few differences to the model already, and I will go through these as quickly as I can here. I added on the flaps and all the control surfaces and all that jazz, and they fit quite well. They could have fit a little bit better. I ended up having to sand them down a little bit. Very, very minor, little bit of sanding. It didn't really do much. Didn't really, disrupt the entire build of the model. The next thing was to add on the maskings, cutting out maskings for the window, and unfortunately the lines of the frame, they're not as dominant as I would have liked. They're not very boxy. They're kind of like that. They don't kind of go up. Anyways, they're manageable, especially if you are masking them under a bright light. So then I added some tissue into all the opening areas there. Hopefully they'll stay until the end of the build, and proceeded to then airbrush it enamel metallic silver. This is a tester's color. I really like this paint. So now Greg at SaveTheFish.net, he brought up a very good point, is that a lot of these metallic colors, the silvers in particular, don't dry properly, and I hadn't really had any problems with them until I started building this little guy. This is the Sweet A5M, and I painted this, I think, aluminum. Let me just grab a look. Yeah, flat aluminum, and it became very tacky, and I had to I think about 3 or 4 coats of Future on top of that to get it down properly. And then I realized what my problem with it was, is I just basically poured it straight in the airbrush and I never thinned it. And it was a problem I never had airbrushing these paints before, because I would always thin them, and I used Tester's enamel thinner, and I believe this has some kind of an accelerant built into it, and I don't have any problems with this stuff. It's dried on rock hard. I use this for Model Master paints as well, and it dries them up very nicely, and again, I believe it has an accelerant in it that helps the paint harden. What could cause this to happen? I've never heard an official response. I have heard of this problem with many other modelers, and I personally believe it comes from the nature of metallic paints, that they need to be stirred a lot. And quite consistently too. You can see here on the wing, the paint separated. I tried to fix that, but what I should have done is I should have just taken my paint stir and mixed it up again. So lesson learned that for next time. Maybe do it in smaller batches, but I certainly did not use it on this. Now, some of you might be asking me, why did you use such a glossy, very shiny surface? That's not what aluminum looks like, you fool. You've in fact doomed us all. Well, as you can see here, I painted this with a flat aluminum, but when I gave it a panel line wash, what ended up happening is it became very gray. And aluminum does not necessarily go gray. What I have right here, this is a piece, an actual little aluminum piece from a DC3 wreck. So here you can see the interior green. Here you can see that nice interior yellow, very close to the Tamiya color. Rob at Basic Modeling showed me this yellow-green XF4. It's darn close. This is just a slight bit darker. With a wash, it'll be, I think, nearly identical. And then here we have some more of this gray. Now, if you're looking around here, you can see as I rotate it, there are silver edges, and they're actually very sharp. And this was in a wreck, exposed to fire and the elements, and it's still shiny. So what my intending goal here with this aircraft is to use a very shiny surface, and 2 things are going to happen in the future. Number 1, when I put the enamel wash, it's going to darken that all up. Number 2, when I apply a flat coat, that should dull it up quite a bit and have it be more accurate to this. It still would be shiny, not terribly shiny. So I guess I should say it should have a bit of a shine to it, but not bright chrome-like. So that's what I'm going to be doing right now. So I'm going to go set this up, And my next step here, and the reason why I painted it silver, is because I bought some new Model Master Japanese colors, and I'm going to try these out because I really want to try salt weathering. It's been one thing I haven't been able to do because I mostly work with acrylics, and this will not work with acrylics. So I'm going to go set this all up, and yeah, I'm going to show you guys my first attempt at salt weathering. Alright, so my first attempt to demonstrate this in a video did not go over that well, so I'm going to try again here. Salt weathering is a very interesting method of weathering a kit, which you apply, as the method indicates, salt over top of a silver, and then you spray it with the regular color paint, the base coats, in this case green and gray, and after they have dried, you take something like a toothbrush and warm water, or even just warm water, and you simply brush off the salt, and what you're left with underneath is some very beautiful looking weathering. So I've done it here onto the wings, and it's quite random and irregular. I've tried to keep it more close here to where they would be, you know, walking and maintenance hatches and stuff like that. And what I'm using for this is Himalayan pink salt. You can buy this as these nice little salt bits, and there I have them in this pepper grinder here. And what I like about this pepper grinder is breaking them, they're quite inconsistent in their size, so I'm getting very, very random bits of salt, little grains of salt in there. And then I have a bowl of water here. This is how I've been applying this, and it's been working out quite well actually. And I'm taking a wide brush, and I am just brushing it up and down the whole model. Now I want to keep away from the control surfaces. You might be asking why? Because these are fabric. They would not have any, or shouldn't have any chipping done on them. So then I'm just going to add some salt on it. I'll do it over the water, even though I shouldn't. So just sprinkling it all on there. Tap it off. Quite a bit came off there. That's good. So I can see some bigger drops, and I'll just use my brush here to kind of suck up any extra moisture there. So I think this is better to do on a flat coat. It's going to be my big guess, is I should add a flat coat because it's just too runny. You can see the water is just not wanting to flatten itself up over the surface. So what I can do, I possibly just might go ahead and do this, is do a little bit of wet sanding just to dull it a little bit, add a little bit of texture onto it, so that the water and the salt has something better to stick onto, or sorry, hold on to, and that'll probably be, that's probably what I need to do right now. But that's essentially it as far as salt weathering goes, and hopefully this will look quite nice when it's done. It's a bit much, which is nice because I can take some of it off after it's cured properly. But I am having quite the difficult time getting this stuff to stay on. But again, if I don't like it, all I need to do is get some warm water and just wash it off and start all over again. So the only thing I would have lost is some salt, but I've got plenty of that. I don't know if there's anything in the rules about types of salt. That's the one thing I was not able to find any kind of reference material on, is what salt you should or shouldn't use. I have seen people using big clumps of sea salt. I have seen people using very, very fine different types of salt, regular table salt, and I'm trying this Himalayan pink salt, so I don't know if it'll work, but I'm going to cross my fingers. And yeah, I'm gonna hope for the best. I'm not entirely happy with this so far. Maybe it's one of these things where it'll be nicer after it's dried out and painted. It'll look quite nice. I'm experimenting with this for the first time, so like I said, I do have my fingers crossed, but I'm trying to remain optimistic to this whole thing. But it is a bit frustrating because I haven't really seen anyone really saying this is how you do it on any kind of video or anything like that. So these planes could become quite beat up. So if you wanted to go all nuts on it, which I am going to do, I'm going to go nuts on this one as far as weathering it goes, because people have been asking me to do that for a few years now, and I don't quite care for it as much. But I figured, why the heck not? I'll just do it on this one, and it'll look quite nice, I hope. Fingers crossed, and away I go. Alright guys, here it is. I'm nervous, to say the least. A bit excited. Would not be on that list as well. I did find a way how to apply this stuff on a bit more thoroughly, and that was to use the flat brush, but I think, again, the glossy surface really is kind of what killed it as far as the water applying properly. So, like I said, I'm going to cross my fingers, and it's going to look very, very war-torn and battle-beaten, which I know you guys have asked for a long time now. So I'm just going to do it, and yeah, because I don't really have anything battle-beaten and really combat fatigued, and so why not? Yeah, why not do it just this once? No, I'd probably do it again. If it doesn't work, I'll just repaint the entire darn thing and go to my option 2. So I'm going to use, as I mentioned before, I'm going to use enamels. I've got 2 because I made a bit of an error and accidentally ordered both Army and Navy Sky Gray, but I'm trying to pick which one I do like the most, because these are quite different from, I think I'm going with the Army, but then again I kind of like the Navy. I think I better go with the Army one here. It's got a bit of a green tint into it, which is more, from what I've learned, more the Navy color. The Army ones, in my opinion, tend to be more gray. So I'm going to use this. I think, again, this is a Model Master. That's not, 100% fact or anything like that. It's just what I've noticed. And these have been sitting on the shelf for quite a while because they've got quite a nice layer of dust on them. But they're going to be used today, and hopefully I will like them enough that I will want to use them again and again and again and again and again and again and again. So yeah, I'm not going to record this time. Because I think what I'm going to do here, I think I'm about to make a mess. I think one person said, "Don't worry about your airbrush blowing off the salt that's stuck on there pretty tight." And to a point, he's actually very correct. It's on there pretty tight. And another person said, "Try not to use your airbrush pressure too strongly because it will blow the salt off." So I don't know who to believe, but I'm going to prepare myself for an inevitable possibility that I would get my camera, and more importantly my camera lens, dirty, which would be the worst thing in the world I would be able to do to my camera. And so I'm not going to record this, but I'm going to go and test this out, leave it alone to dry for a day, possibly 2. It's not going to be that thick of a coat, but better safe than sorry. And that's about it for me, so fingers crossed everybody, let's go do this thing. Alright guys, I've airbrushed the underside, and I think it's actually quite a nice color. It's quite a nice gray. This is the Imperial Light Army gray, and I really like this. Went on very, very nice. Took just a few layers and it was down. And I was actually having such a good time about it, I decided that what I would do is paint the green. The Imperial Army Navy green. I mixed it up very, very thoroughly, poured it into the pot, and this is what I ended up with. A disastrous mess, for lack of better words. And I'm quite actually upset about the whole thing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this in the garbage bin. Then I'm going to go to my bed and cry for a good hour. After that hour's up, I'm going to go take it out of the garbage bin, have a good look over it again, which will then cause me to want to go back to bed and cry for probably another hour. And I'm going to just put it to the side for about 3 days, so I don't go back to bed and cry for another hour. And I'm going to use XF11. I'm going to just go back to acrylic here. It's glossy, which I did not know. I thought maybe I hadn't stirred it properly. The fact that they can't put semi-gloss or gloss somewhere on the bottle is really frustrating. Like, look at this. This is semi-gloss black. It says it right there on the label, if this camera will focus on it. Anyways, it does say it. Just take my word for it. So, this stuff is going away. You're going into the drawer until I am absolutely desperate enough that I will need this paint again, which won't be anytime soon. But Baby Cloud9, no, I must be part of your model. You should have thought of that before you did this. But no. Okay. Can't hear him anymore. And so I'm going to just leave this silly thing to dry. Again, yeah, it's just, it stinks horribly. Another part of the problem, and I hate to sound like I'm just blaming everything on the paint, but part of the problem actually was the paint. It was incredibly thin, like straight out of the bottle, was too thin. And this is why I'm not a big fan of pre-thinned paints, because I like to thin them myself, because I have a consistency that I personally like to work with. This thing stinks! My goodness. Here, you go out here on the window. Oh, I've got a sore throat, and that thing's just going to make it worse. I know it. So yeah, that's why I don't like these pre-thinned paints. Like Vallejo has their Model Air colors and stuff like that, is because that's one of the reasons why I really like these Tamiya ones, is because they are very easy to hand brush, but they're also incredibly nice to airbrush. Once you figure out that nice ratio that you like. And on some of these Model Masters, oh thank goodness you let me back out. No, you're staying in there. I'm just opening the drawer, getting out a good piece of paint. Like these ones here, these ones I use for RAF colors. I find these to be excellent to airbrush once I figure out that consistency. Again, finding that consistency is a little difficult. But like, I got the consistency proper on this one. Airbrush on just lovely. I think you saw that there on the bottom. It was just perfect. It looked just like my acrylics. In fact, it actually dried flatter than my acrylics, which was very, very nice. So, not a huge fan of that. It was just so thin. Like, you couldn't add thinner to it. And I tried, like, kind of scraping the bottom. Maybe I'd find something down there. But I stirred it up so nicely. It was like there was nothing to it. So I'm not happy with that paint, and like I said, in about 3 days I'm going to go paint this on. It's going to take 3 days for it to cure thoroughly. What is it today? Today's Thursday. Yeah, Sunday I can be... Oh, Sunday. Oh, I have to wait 3 days before I can work on this model again. That is depressing. But it's part of the game. So what I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to just assemble like the landing gear, the torpedo, and all those little all those little bits and bobs. There's still stuff for me to do, and it's not the only project that I'm working on at this current time. It's just I could also build this. Oh, I forgot about that. I could build the engine. Ooh, silver lining after all. Well, come on, silver lining. Let's get to work here and figure out something to do. Well, this mess will be remedied. I'll still be able to save the model. It's just I hate this kind of setback, but that's all part of the game of building models and whatnot. But you guys all know this. It's just frustrating when everything's going so well and then. Anyways, we endure. Alright, everybody. I ran into a problem. I wanted to show how to do the salt weathering, how to remove it, but I thought before I fire up the camera, why don't I test it and see if I can get it working. And you're supposed to use, according to some forums, old toothbrush and some warm water, and you just basically, supposedly, rubs off. Well, no, it did not rub off just nicely like I had hoped. I went and got some very fine steel wool. Don't ask me what grade, because it doesn't really say precisely. And I began to just scrape it off, and it started looking quite nice. And there's still some grainy texture, but it's not enough on there to really fine polish it down. Then I flipped it around, and yeah, it actually looks very good and weathered, but it's quite miserable of a mess. It did not come off at all. It's basically stuck on here, like it's like super glued on there. Basically, it is ruined, and this is the point where you would say I want to bin the model, which is toss it in the garbage and never look at it. And to be honest, I'm frustrated enough that it is at that point, but am I going to bin it? Of course not. It is still very, very much salvageable. I don't know what went wrong, and I don't even want to begin to speculate why. Quite frankly, I don't care anymore as to what could have gone wrong. But like I said, I'm going to leave it for a day. I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to get rid of all the salt. And then I'm going to repaint the green. I don't want to. I was hoping I would be close to putting a future coat on, this gloss coat, and start decaling in the morning, hopefully. That's all gone out the window, obviously. So it's just frustrating because it is a setback, but it does look quite nice on the bottom there. It's harder to see, but there you can see it picks up the silver on it. I quite like that. And like I said, it's not well, how do I put it? Yes, at this point in time, it is ruined, but it's not time to get mad and frustrated. I am, after I record this, going to go and scream into my pillow, probably for a good 5 minutes, and followed that by a paper bag. But it'll be okay. It's just frustrating because you do all this work and then it falls apart, and then you go back to square one. That's the frustrating part. We all go through that. So it will be done. It will be done, just in a different way than I had originally planned, and the second option of mine will work quite nicely. So I am not disappointed there. So salt weathering, it does work. I can't quite get it to work as well as other people, but oh well. At least I got the bottom done there. So time to go. Just leave it up here for a while. And plus I got other things to work on. So here, started the engine. Maybe I should do the cowling as well. That way I can airbrush that tomorrow as well. That's right, that's actually what I should do. Should be doing that. Oh, one thing I wanted to make a note of with this kit. I've cut up most of the sprues already, but I wanted to show this. Airfix has gone ahead and done something recently, and they have frame D on here, frame C, frame E, and they're very, very tiny little letters, very hard to read. Just in case someone from Airfix is listening to this, or somebody knows someone who works at Airfix. This is nice, but Bandai and Tamiya do it a lot better. They put it at the top, and it's a big thing that you can see. It's very, very small letters. It's a nice touch, but it's not quite perfect. So anyways, should be washed in warm soapy water. Well, now I know. It says so right there. For best results. That's the whole reason why this whole project has been just one giant mess. Surfaces to be painted on should be clean. Before parts are removed from the sprue, wash in warm soapy water, rinse and dry thoroughly. Stir paint thoroughly before use. Well, I did that one at least. Please note, some parts in the kit may not be required to build the model specified. Okie dokie. Anyways, I'm gonna go and, yeah, scream into the pillow.